Welcome to What People with Disabilities Teach Us. I'm Mike Delaney, executive co-host along with Pamela Mullins. When Pamela approached me a few months ago about possibly hosting this cable television program, it was because she had heard me talk about my 2 decades plus of experience in working with people with various kinds of disabilities, coupled with her experience in producing cable television. And that's the nature and the origin of our partnership. She has family members who are disabled, and so do I. And we are in a few moments going to meet someone who represents my background in working with people with disabilities. But let me share with you that in the coming months we are going to have a wide variety of mental and developmental and physical disabilities represented on the program. Over the 2.5 decades that I have worked with people with disabilities, I've often heard folks say in praise that, oh, we learn so much from people with disabilities. And for a while that sounded good, but after a while I asked, why do you say that? And what is it specifically that you claim we are learning? I know that people mean virtuous kinds of attributes like courage and determination and perseverance. I've seen all those things, patience, gentleness, but I've also seen some behavioral kinds of problems at times from people with disability. I know that from my own experience. Pam knows it from her experience, but I think many of us will soon discover in what we hear our guests say that, yeah, my life is like that. At times I felt like I was on the outside looking in, or I wanted to experience how I could become better connected, and something was either favoring me or getting in my way. Today's topic is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as ALS, sometimes known as Lou Gehrig's disease, of course, from the career of the legendary baseball player Lou Gehrig. I'm on the edge of my seat with anticipation to talk to our first guest, Cara Nocero. Cara's mother died 25 years ago from ALS when she was only 7 years old after 5 years of battling Lou Gehrig's disease. Cara's memories then are hit and miss. She remembers some things, but she certainly remembers the relationship of losing her mother and of the 25 years, near 25 years since that time, and just how far-reaching a relationship can be. So Cara, who is also my cousin, and her mother was my aunt, my mother's sister. So there's all kinds of relationships involved here with this disability that we have certainly known about for quite a while, but only in the past year, millions of Americans and perhaps beyond have stood up and taken notice because of the Ice Bucket Challenge. Cara, welcome. Cara is a 30-year-old young woman, and I'll let her describe her journey in greater detail, but almost 25 years ago she lost her mother to ALS when Cara was only 7 years old, barely 7, having just completed the 1st grade. And since that time, growing up without her mother, of which she has some memories, has been a significant journey in relationships. Even though your mother has been absent physically in those relationships, I think there's a story to be told in terms of your growth and development, and you're here to share that with us, and we're looking forward to hearing what you've got to say. Going back in time, let's work our way backward. Why don't you tell us where you are today?
Today I'm living in San Diego, Mission Beach. I have been out there for almost 5 years. Before that, it was Atlanta for a few years, and then been Northern Kentucky and Lexington for school. So those are the 4 cities.
Specifically, where'd you grow up?
I grew up Daniel Street, Covington, Latonia. I always refer to it as Covington. Grew up there, lived on the same street for 2 different houses at my home, and then down with my aunt Rose, who moved down the street to actually help take care of my aunt, my mom. And then I went to UK, so right around here, where I've been.
Okay, some of the things that have taken place. I mean, you graduated from college. Where was that?
College was UK, class of 2007, and then Proud Homes alumni 2003.
Okay, very active while at Holmes and in the community growing up, doing what kinds of things?
I've always been into the sports. Started soccer at a real young age, but then soccer, softball, some basketball at Holmes.
As I recall, attended a very special basketball camp.
I did. That was before Holmes. I'm a big basketball fan growing up, so Michael Jordan's basketball camp was a pretty incredible experience.
And your dad was pretty much the driving force in sports?
Yeah, that side of the family always has been really into the sports since you were little, and my dad, he just likes to be on the sidelines yelling and ranting and raving and giving the ref a hard time.
Okay. Well, tell us a little more about those formative years.
Well, yeah, there's a lot going into it. Just back to get where I am today has been starting with that. Holmes was a great place for me. Had great teachers, was in the International Baccalaureate program, which I look at as being a foundation for a lot of the success through academics. And
You were a strong student.
I did okay.
I know you don't want to brag on yourself, but the International Baccalaureate program is no walk in the park.
No, yeah, it was a great experience, and I'm very proud actually that I did get that diploma along with some others through that. So that was a big piece to that. And it's interesting. I might be the first one in like my direct from dad and mother's side to go to college.
Thank you, Cara, for those comments, and we look forward to hearing more about the successes that have taken place in your development and in your life. But first, I want to take us back to when your mother was still living. I have one piece that she copied and kept. It said, "God hath not promised skies always blue, flower-strewn pathways all our lives through. God hath not promised sun without rain, joy without sorrow, peace without pain. But God hath promised strength for the day, rest for the labor, light for the way, grace for the trials, help from above, unfailing sympathy, undying love." Anyone who knows about the degenerative neurological disease ALS knows that it can be tough. It is tough. It's terminal. It comes about with a kind of decline that isn't pleasant for those of us looking on or the person who has ALS. It includes towards the end an inability to swallow, a very frail physique. Your mother, well, I'll let you describe what was going on. This is something that she copied and wanted to remind herself, but passed on to you even after she was gone. Let me read one more thing that she wrote in 1988. Now, am I correct? She died in 1992.
Yeah.
And was diagnosed in 1987. A year after she was diagnosed, she wrote this. It's called "Be Still and Know That I Am God. Be still my muscles and know God's relaxation. Be still my nerves and know God's rest. Be still my heart and know God's quietness. Be still my body and know God's renewal. Be still my mind and know God's peace." By Becky, 1988. What do you think about when you think about those words and those lines?
Well, it's interesting that um, when I think about those lines, my mom had become very looked to God a lot and used her faith and religion as a support mechanism for herself. And that one is a very interesting piece that I haven't read in a while. Whenever I come home, actually, I read them, and it's like reading them for the first time. But those are very specific to the struggles and things that she needed support in and help from. So when I hear that, I just think about the peace that she was, especially with the last line, peace she was coming to terms with having that disease, and her approach to overcoming that inside, from the inside.
It's been 24 years. You have to have thought about that a lot, and a lot of things a lot.
Yeah, that's what I would. One of the things that's most prevalent in when I think about her is how she did that. I couldn't imagine it, and the strength that it caused in that. And she was, a quieter person, not very outgoing, very close to the family, and had some few friends, some wonderful friends from her job at Cincinnati Bell. One of them in particular is, like you said, 20 plus years, 24 years, has never missed a birthday or a Christmas card to me. And
Since that time.
Since that time, every single one, and I've lived in all of those
This,
places.
in hindsight, was quite a beginning to life for you. You were her only child, and this was the only life you had ever known. The first 6 or 7 years of your life was your mother being diagnosed with this disease, in which, well, what kind of relationship did you have physically? What things were you able to do together?
Well, yeah, that's the interesting part about, I was a child, and I didn't know anything other as far as a way that you would otherwise go about it. That's actually an interesting idea. A whole side of the disabilities is that it caused me to be completely normal around her, not changing how I was or would interact, because it is all I knew. My mom, as far as I have any memory, she wasn't able to walk, so she was living in our back room at the time, and there was a lazy boy chair, which is where I saw most of her life, where she lived.
She didn't leave the house, correct?
Yeah,
in the
she
time
never.
yeah.
I never remember leaving the house, and I don't think she did. We had a come-in doctor, Dr. Coffey, who would come to visit her. And yeah, so that back room was where I saw her live her life until the very last week or so. She moved to our front room, and some people came to visit her then, but that was when it had really degenerated. So most of my memories with my mom don't include physical activity. I talked to her. If I ever did something, wrong, she would just tell me to go sit on the couch for 5 minutes, and about a minute later she'd let me off. But it was never any physical type activities. There was tons of video, camcorder, my whole childhood, just recording me outside and playing, and then she would watch that, and we'd watch it again because we'd like to laugh at ourselves. But that interaction was pretty much all there was. There wasn't any other ones I can remember. My mom's mom, who I called Mimo, also lived with us. It was me, my dad, and my mom.
Your grandmother.
My grandmother, Mimo. So it was the four of us, and I remember that one time we just flipped a coin and we would guess heads and tails, and I, as a kid, could have done it for ages, but there's not even a memory like that with my mom.
You don't remember walking up or down the street with her? You don't remember throwing a ball?
I don't think we ever went outside together in my memory. It was all from inside the house.
Went to get an ice cream, or...
I would walk up to the Dairy Queen, but, not ever with my mom. So that's... And I didn't know anything different now, and to think about it and looking back, that is very hard to... It's hard without feeling those kinds of feelings you don't want, of pitying or something to someone that they didn't go outside. Did my mom see a sunrise or a sunset for the last 5 years of her life? I don't know, but she didn't go outside from my memory, so that's, that's just from someone who lives in San Diego who gets to do so much. That is something that makes me sad.
You have lived a very mobile life. I mean, you mentioned living in other places. Can you be specific? I mean, you're in San Diego now. Where else have you lived and traveled?
Yeah, I was in Atlanta, and in high school I was able to travel to France. In college I went to Argentina. I play rugby. We did a thing there, so it was sports oriented, physical activity oriented. And after Atlanta, before I moved to San Diego, I traveled to Nepal.
Nepal.
Lived there for a month.
And
Yeah.
while you were in Nepal, you went where?
Then I went up to Tibet.
So you said let's go over to Tibet, and you were in Nepal and
Speaking of-
Argentina and France.
Yeah, speaking of flipping coins, the decision to go to Tibet was a flip of a coin because at the time you had to be on a group visa, and I had found some friends, so I flipped a coin and it said to go, so I changed my flight home and visited Tibet as well. So a lot of freedom in all I could do and choose, and that's being very blessed in a lot of ways. Lucky would be another word, but it's not lucky just by it's from the people who before me, my family, and everyone who supported me along the way, to be able to call myself lucky.
Well, let's talk about that. Was it luck, or was it a lot of effort and intentionality that helped make you this kind of person? And I want to ask you, because this program is called "What People with Disabilities Teach Us." It's your turn. You've heard me ramble about something. What do you think your mother and her disability communicated to you? What's the message? What's the takeaway?
It's a really hard question because I want to do her justice. I want to, I want to truly say everything that she's meant and different things. She's taken care of me, to this day still. Her herself, she left me the house that the mortgage had been paid off. Little simple stuff like that. She also had relationships with people that I can talk to them and learn from her. But with her disease, there was strength from her, and with learning from disabilities, since this is kind of the direction, I think one thing I would say is there's something to be learned from what the person exemplifies and what you can learn from what they've done, and then there's lessons that you can learn from how you interact and have interacted with that person, learn about yourself and things that you want to do. So my mom, it was strength, it was an acceptance, it was, she didn't like being helped very much. She would have some visitors, I guess, not even come back to the back room to see her in some of the more vulnerable places. It was the closest family did that kind of thing.
There was a circle, and only the inner circle was really welcomed. She appreciated visitors, as you just said, but then there was the inner circle that.
So with that, there was no choice for her. She could not walk. She could not, later stages, give herself a drink. Someone had to raise the straw to her. So there's that bit of vulnerability that I learned from her. And, she also, on the emotional side, was pretty quiet to people, I think, but she used her faith in God to kind of, for that dependence there. So those are some of the things I learned from her.
Let's just recap. I got this puzzle piece as a visual that I wanted to share with you from a woman named Barbara Newman, who is a special ed teacher, special needs teacher up in Michigan for an organization called CLC, Christian Leadership Conference. And she created this puzzle piece with two different colors. Green represents strength, and pink represents our weaknesses or our deficits. We all have assets. We all have deficits. Nobody has the whole package. You just described your mother as having strength, and clearly her physical properties were deficits during her her decline with ALS. But what else would you, in summarizing again, what would you put on the green side and what would you put on the pink side?
So for my mom, on the pink side, it would be, any kind of coordination, any kind of, you mentioned the disabilities, the various types, and this one would be a physical disability.
She couldn't feed herself as time passed.
Yeah.
Couldn't even turn over.
Yes, and yeah, and you mentioned the frailty of the body, and there's just no way to describe what a limp body can be. And I didn't even know that I did remember some parts of that, but I saw during the ALS Bucket Challenge there was a guy who had posted a video, and he has familial ALS. He also has it, and his mother had it. And there's a clip in there where he's lifting his mom, and I could see my mom in that idea with the limpness. So,
and I did some of the lifting. I can recall that we had to be very careful because you could easily dislocate a shoulder.
Yeah, and she had fairly lost some weight at the time, and those pieces. So, that's the physical side is that side, and then alternatively, though, there was a lot of mental strength in that as well, and I'm sure that there was places to grow and sides of it that were stronger, but
we can even inject a little bit of humor here. She was as quiet and recluse as she could be. She was also a bit of a rebel, as I recall, had someone with regularity lighting her cigarettes for her. It was 1990, and she, despite declining in this terrible disease, she was rather insistent, as I recall.
Yes, she did quit smoking while she was pregnant, but other than that, that was something. She has she used to borrow the car when she was younger and smoke a cigarette or two in the car, then throw the pack away. So the cigarettes, that was, one of the things.
Well, I always suggest that a good teacher is a success when the student assimilates some of the lessons, if I can put it that way. What are some of your strengths and what are some of your deficits? Some are hers, or do you have your own?
There's similarities a lot in either side. Some of my strengths are, it's hard to compare because I don't remember a ton of what how my strengths connect, but I would say that an opposite place would be I am willing to try new things and willing to go.
You're adventuresome.
More so than her. She was very much a homebody, and those types of things. So whether it's a weakness or a strength, there's a contrast. My mom was, she was really kind in a lot of ways, especially with strangers, and I think I've adopted that from her. I think she used to drive a guy to work that would wait for the bus or didn't have it. I somehow have those similarities, just to be kinder to people along the way.
There had to have been tough times, Cara. I mean, your mom didn't die, and then everything was okay again.
Yeah. There are tough times that...
I'm getting back to the pink part, at least for a while.
Yeah. And that's something I'm actually really comfortable with recognizing, is the pink side, because I'm home for the holidays, haven't seen a lot of friends in a while, and I talk about, I live and work on the beach. I've traveled a lot of places. I've played a high level of rugby, won a national championship, gone way farther, and being good at that than I thought I could be. And it's really easy when you come into somewhere and you drop by or you see people on short periods of time that everything can look like it's great and you're doing wonderful. And you are wonderful. Your grandson and I hung out a lot this weekend, and he went to my dad's, and we have an annual dart gun fight, and things are always fun. And
he was somebody you could look up to. He's a 15-year-old teenager.
Yeah, and I'm talking about having so much fun and being a favorite and living in San Diego, and he wants to come there. And it's very easy, and it is great. I can have, 4 wonderful days with him full of that, and it's and those are the experiences that are so good, and they cherish them so much. But there was the day-to-day isn't always easy, and there's definitely a lot of deficits that I have that a lot of people have witnessed and stayed alongside me through those, and helped me grow through them, and just been there and gone through it. So when my mom died, it was interesting. The morning my mom died, it was pretty close that it had been deteriorated very far, and it was going to be pretty soon. And I'd stayed at my next door neighbor's house, and I remember coming down the steps and thinking, is today the day my mom is dead? And it actually didn't. It wasn't like an idea. I didn't realize that was going to be the rest of my life, that she would be missing. But it was, and I came next door, and it hadn't hit me that hard yet, but my grandma that I had mentioned that lived there was sitting at our kitchen table with her hand like this, and I didn't see her move. And I think we had to call the ambulance or something for her, and she had actually had a stroke that morning. My mom was her youngest of 3, youngest by 20-some years. So as she was your aunt, she was very close to your age, just a few years older. But yeah, she had her stroke, and then there were, things that she had lost along those ways, and died not too many months later. I said before, I think our family believes in dying of a broken heart. And being at 7, I didn't, the whole weight of everything that had happened with losing my mom wasn't there yet. The weight of how hard her life had been wasn't.
How could it be at 7? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there was, but then I can't decide what was being a child and what wasn't. But I had so many people that loved me through it all. But I would get sad. I would write things. I would.
Angry.
Angry things at times if I was angry, and a lot of it always came back to my mom, because it's the loss I knew I had. It was. It was hard, and I know, like, my mom was very proud of me. I was her only child. She was a little older when she had me. And I know that she loved me so much, and I was always, those would match my outfit to everything, and just very important to her to see me grow up, to watch those videos, to miss that. And I knew how important I was to her, and one of the things that I had always struggled with myself on my side was that my dad was there, and he is a great dad. He's a great guy. He's his own guy. He has his own flaws as well. An Italian guy with a hot head at times who works at the racetrack and loves Kentucky basketball and still thinks he can outshoot, and he probably thinks he could outshoot Steph Curry at the 3. But my mom, it was something special. It was really loved. So struggling with the loss of that was, I had so many people that loved me, but I always, in my head, there was this thing that I would tell myself, is that nobody loves me most in the world. Your mother is who I ended up living with and taking care of me all till I went to college. And I don't know if I've even ever said this, but she loves me to the end and back, and has accepted so many things, and was been there through the times where I wasn't anywhere near someone pleasant that I can come across and have grown to be.
In the format of this program, we cut a pretty broad swath and include some of the mental health kinds of conditions, such as anxiety and depression, and some of the others. Do you think, at least situationally, you went through your own period of having disabilities?
Mine has been more on the inside my own head, inside my own, mind, and just those pieces. That's where I've definitely had, struggles, and not. Yeah, so they're there, and I've seen therapists. I see therapists. I mentioned, and the high school thing. So there's things I'm working on those sides of the card, and I think disability is.
And that's a good thing that you've seen, sought counseling and received it. We want to encourage people to do that may be struggling.
Yeah, and You know, like my mom, I still want to keep a little bit of a guard up on those things, but I, you know, I think it was a big thing that Rosie, I'd mentioned that to her, and she said, okay, let's do that, you know. And I think that talking about your things you're going through in life, you know, I think that's a healthy thing for people to do. I think that, you know, you a lot of times you just live your life and things bottle up and you don't even know what's bothering you sometimes. And just to talk with someone and get a take and it to be about you.
Yeah, I mean, my Lord, Cara, it's not a deficit that you went through bouts of depression. Who wouldn't? Losing their mother when they're barely 7 years old. My goodness, that's to your credit that
Yeah.
you sought help, and I just think that speaks highly. I'm biased, but I don't think that's in any way a deficit.
Yeah, and you know, I think that any disability or however the wording is, it's a tricky one to do it, but anything that you struggle with or go through is an opportunity to develop one of the strengths or on that other side and learn about yourself, but it also creates a true sense of empathy. And it's easier that's what's so hard about my mom's physical you know, struggles with ALS is that it's really hard to empathize how hard that was for her. I just can't imagine not being able to go to the bathroom without asking for someone's help. You know, I recently had an ACL surgery, and people had to help me, you know, and just to, you know, I have great friends everywhere I've lived. I've had at least a handful of really wonderful.
And that includes
people.
Atlanta, Lexington.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard because I want to be in all the places at once now. It's one of the reasons that maybe I settled down in a place. But they, you know, those friends, they did schedules for me. They made a Google Doc and had people responsible for meals. Remember my next door neighbor Michelle Cash brought over a Starbucks like protein plate one morning because she didn't have time to make me a shake, but she was making me the shake. So they just like took care of me like no other. And it was, you know, a week that I was out of commission, but I still could go to the bathroom myself. So I thought about her then, you know, and I read after the ALS, I was reading a lot of the blogs, the Bucket Challenge, and there was a guy that said everyone should have ALS for a day, is a Time article, have ALS for a day to see what you can get from that.
You're a big fan of Brené Brown and
Power of Vulnerability.
Power of Vulnerability. So I mean, do you make that connection in terms of ALS teaching us something about vulnerability, but ultimately strength and character?
Yeah, and specifically with my mom being how she was, that was a lesson that I would say that she took away, is just starting to do that vulnerability, and whether she liked it or not.
Although
it
appears the epitome of weakness and powerless, but in a paradoxical kind of way.
It's a strength. Yeah. Along the way, I think that it's just harder to bridge these gaps, and you eliminate the relationships, and you can walk around and you can, you know, just if someone cuts you off on the road, or someone's mean to you serving you somewhere, or says something offhand, you can get really angry about that, and sometimes I do, and sometimes I think to them, you don't know the day I've had, but you know, that idea of just the connectedness and just accepting that, you know, and thinking a little bit about them on their side and whatever they're going through, you know. When I was playing rugby in college, I was pretty good for for college Division II. Then I went to this women's club in Atlanta who had been 4th in the nation and had former U.S. Eagles, that's the national team, on it. And it was a lot of people had retired that year before. They'd been 4th in the nation. Came on, there was 18 or 19 of us, and I think I was the second to worst player on that team. And that was an interesting idea and wake-up call to myself. And there was a couple ways I could have responded to that, because, you know, in high school, actually, at Holmes, basketball, if I could have been good at anything, it would have been basketball. I would have, you know, and I tried. I didn't have the right techniques or the right tools to be good at it, which I later developed in rugby. But I actually quit my sophomore junior year because it took a toll on me to not be a starter, to go try so hard and not be up to that level. And so I was in the academic challenging class. I had a good batting average for softball, so that became the sport that I had focused on, and I was good at soccer. But when that came to me in Atlanta, I had a way to do it, but I kind of was just really humble. Rugby taught me a lot of humility in that sense, because we had won, and I didn't start, of course, at the Nationals that year. And then I did get in at the end of the game, and I made a mistake that I think cost the other team to win and put us in the lower bracket. I did.
And that's humbling, yes.
Yeah, but there was one of the folks there who I'm really close to now, Heather. Heather Hale's her name. She played for the U.S. She's a very close friend of mine. Very, very much about love and connection and treating people kind. Very like Buddhism type concepts of peace. But she, took me to do some like kicking and learn some certain things, which showed that she actually thought I could be good. And she would say that you're good. She is a positive person. And then there was one other friend who had played for the U.S. named Kate Cox, and she said to me, and she would give me things in the backyard to do. She would make dinner. I would go over their house for dinner because I'd moved there and I was alone, and these people were a great network again. And they would be cooking dinner, and she'd tell me to do these squats in the backyard, and then come back in. And then she'd give me another thing, and I'd do it. And
I don't want to go to their house for dinner, but anyway.
Yeah, and she said to me, she's like, you know what, you might never play the U.S. international level. She's like, but you can play on this team. You can be good. And it was that moment of real, like, it was not as kind and loving and whatever, but it was this, you can do this. And it was a true belief in that, and a true belief in me, which so many people along the way have done. So between that and then I played rugby and done a lot better than I ever would have thought. When we went to San Diego, there became a Premier League and 8 teams in the country, and I was a starter when I went there. And I'm not a big scorer or anything like that, but I work hard out there and do the role playing. And my coach gave me the MVP, and then the team also awarded that to me one year. And I don't know, I just trace all that back to everyone that, believed in me along the way and how I interacted in that. And so that's, separate from my mom, but like, they're just pieces in.
It does relate. Rugby is not, I don't mean to demean people who curl in the Olympics, but
yeah.
It's a pretty physical sport.
Yeah.
But having a disability can be very physical and very mental too.
And I would say, and I think since I do talk about rugby, I've been talking about rugby a little bit here, one of the reasons that I do love that sport so much is I've told you more of my challenges aren't physical. They're more in my head and emotional, and that's why I've loved rugby for so many years, is because it's one of those few things that requires me completely. I can't be thinking about something that's upset me or a problem, because if I'm coming to catch a ball, someone's going to hit me if my mind's not right there. I get to be like in the moment, and I get knocked down, and I have to get back up, and sometimes I make a mistake and my teammates will make up for it, or I just have to accept that and move on to the next play, or they'll make a mistake, but I won't get mad at them. It's a huge character building way, and it's a way for me to get to physically experience a lot of the challenges I face inside my head, because you don't see those are hard. But for the rugby, I get to
But I
get
don't.
knocked up,
Yeah.
back down.
I'm not sure
with
you realize the metaphor that you just described. Life is a team sport.
Yeah. Sometimes I wish I lived my life more like the team, or I even did my job more like a team. Because when I'm out there, I have a job, and I do it, and I don't, and I expect other people to do their jobs, and if, we mess up, we just get through it. And with my mom, I would say that she had a team of people that were supporting her, and I don't know how everyone managed that or how they did the schedules, but that, there's a piece to her, and I think it's partly due to her and her building her relationships, but the other piece of her having that, how hard could it have been if she didn't have the family?
You wanted to say something about love?
There's a lot into what love is and what's behind it, and it's loving someone through hard times, being able to be a little more selfless in those things. And I try to piece together what it means in general, but it's just hard to. It just, I feel like it's something that has to be addressed in the equation of everything with relationships, with the support networks, and why people did what they did, and why people have helped me, and how appreciative I am, and all those pieces into the idea of love. And it's the idea of my mom loving me, and I love her. I remember thinking sometime going to college where there wasn't a day that had passed that I hadn't thought about my mom, who had died over a decade ago. And she wasn't here physically. So yeah, there's just this piece that there's love, and there's just love that's present, and especially if you're helping or not. And it's frustrating to probably see that on a day-to-day level, someone you have that you care so much about, struggling and having to do so much more, and life being so hard as someone who's assisting as well.
I'm going to share with you a narrative from a day when I was with your mother when she was battling ALS. I was going through challenges of my own at the time. I was going through a divorce, had been at least depressed from that experience in life, that event, and had lost a lot of weight, some 25 pounds or anything. In a paradoxical or an ironical kind of way, I was happy about the weight. I'd been a little bit overweight, and several of us in the room were talking about weight loss, and I think I look good, and this, that, and the other. And after quite a few minutes of this, your mother finally said, and her speech was slurred at that point. She was really advanced in her ALS, in her Lou Gehrig's disease, and she said in a slurred speech, "I wish everybody," and I couldn't even hear the first time she said it, and I said to someone else, I said, "What did she say?" And she said, "I wished everybody would quit talking about their bodies," which got her attention, because you realized at that moment, as we were caught up in our vanity and everything, that life was more than our physical body. And I think as I look back almost 2.5 decades later at your journey in life, so much of your mother's life was more than her physical body, which was in steep decline at that time, but her life represented the person that I've had this opportunity to visit with today. It was a very far-reaching relationship.
Yeah. Sharing that with me, that's, there's that simple line, I find so much to learn in, and there's going to be so many variations. Studying the Bible and doing Bible studies is a really interesting tool, and I make this comparison because you can take a single line and get so much from it, and I think that's one I'll treasure from her, because there aren't a lot of true lines that I have that I know she said, or that I can do it, that I can just, because like I said, my memories are blurry and a lot of times, and they are hit or miss. There is a story that I would like to share about my mom with the disease, and it's very blurry, but I do remember a time where we were upstairs in my house, and she had, I was sitting on the couch watching a cooking show, and she had hit her head, and I looked up, and she had a laundry basket, and she had taken a rag and put it over, and her head was bleeding, and she said to me, she'd asked me not to tell anyone. So that story showed a lot about how she took the disability, but moreover, it's just like, it is a memory that I have of my mom, and I don't know why she didn't want me to tell anyone. I'm sure people found out I remember there was blood, so I'm sure there was a sign of it afterwards. But
Well, she was like all of the rest of us as human beings. We want to be valued
yeah,
and not perceived as weak, and so she.
Yeah. yeah, and I don't know what that meant, like for her daughter to even, if she didn't want me to see that or what, but it's a memory.
Parents always want their children to see them as strong. And I think now you do perceive your mother as a strong person.
Yeah, incredibly so. I showed you this the other day, and I found it, not too many years ago visiting. One of the harder things for me is, that I wish there was more of. Is, my mom doesn't have a Facebook. She didn't want her video or photo taken. I don't have very many of those, especially when she had the disease, when she had ALS. There's only a few things that are out there. I remember doing a race in Atlanta once in a run, and her name, some of my friends there had done it with me, and there was her name on a sign, and that choked me up, because that was a physical, she's here, seeing her name typed somewhere or written, you don't see that, and in this day and age, it's, how could you not? You Google somebody, there's all these resources, and I don't have that, and I Google things a lot. That's how I, learn a lot of things, and it's sad that that's not there. But I have a few pieces of paper, and her handwriting is like, that is something that's special to me. There's some tangible things there.
Absolutely.
And then I'm sharing a lot here and talking about my mom, and it's something I haven't done in a while. I used to write things about it. There's this progression in my life. When I was a kid and it happened, everyone knew. Then when I got to high school, it started to make me nervous because I didn't want to feel like I was seeking attention from having lost my mom. Those, whatever that would have caused for me, I didn't want anyone to feel sorry for me. I don't want anyone to pity her. I don't think that's what she'd want. And then I went to Atlanta, college, same kind of thing. It's almost like for a while, if someone mentioned a parent, or telling stories, it became an awkward situation for me because I couldn't casually tell a story about my mom and me, or even if I did say a memory about my mom or something about her, it felt almost like a lie to not disclose this other information, that she wasn't there. And then I grew out of it a little bit, so I could start to say that my mom had ALS and died. But in San Diego, before the Ice Bucket Challenge, I don't know if any of my friends knew my mom died of ALS. I think most of them knew she had passed away. But when that came up and I saw the first one, I mentioned it to a friend, and then, I told a few others, and I don't know why that I sometimes repress it and sometimes don't. Maybe it's reason she did, maybe it's not. But yeah, doing this today when you had asked me to do it, and I wanted to do it, and I wanted to be open about myself as well. There's not much about her out there, not much that she can live on unless that I share it, unless we do this thing for her legacy, and she deserves a legacy because, she is so much of who I am today, and the relationships that she helped me build in my formative years to carry me forward. So I want her to be remembered. She was a very good lady, and not one that's going to win a lot of awards. She's in newspapers.
Wasn't a celebrity.
She wasn't a celebrity, but she's very good. So I used to say that I always, whatever I did good, I wanted it to be in note of her and in memory of her. So to list the good things that I did in my life, or the achievements, or the travels and all, those go to her, and other people that have helped me. Like I said, there's never anything I've done solely.
Well, our longevity won't be based on our vanity and physical appearance,
Yeah.
or how long we even lived in years. It's by the fruit we bear, and your evidence of Becky Nocero's, the fruit of her labor.
Yeah. Yeah, and and yeah, so hopefully I'm doing those types of connections to others, and there's the flaws in me too, and that's what makes us all human, and that's why I think that there's just a platform to share some, for me to share those, because it makes me feel more honest, because I'm not perfect, but I don't think we can hold ourselves to that at all anyways. Just it's the opportunities we can get from those. So best thing I have is I thought I could look at some of this, because this is what makes me like, yeah, my mom's name, Rebecca Gail Bird Nocero, but Becky Bird Nocero, I like her name. This is a list, and I think you typed up the stuff.
It has a title, My Faith
Will Make Me Whole. I pray and believe I am healed through God, so I can. And she actually looks like she crossed out I will be, and it says I am. I pray and believe I am healed through God, so I can. I don't know. I wish I had her voice to say some of this. I'm blessed I have her handwriting. Some of them get me more than others, and I don't even know. It's a list, and maybe you'll share the other one on like the page or something, but these are just things she wrote, and it doesn't have a date, but she could still write, so it was probably earlier on. Be there when Cara's afraid. See the sun, sky, stars and moon. Help Mom, her mom. Love Nick, that was our border collie. It's a great dog. Dress Cara. See Cara's friends. Go to church. Love and worship God. Teach Cara. Go to the store. Do dishes. Wash and iron. Put makeup on. Help other people. Be a good example. Sleep peacefully. Quit smoking. Be happy. Have peace of mind. Drive my car. Our car's name was Rachel. Have hope for tomorrow. Make spaghetti. Bake a cake. Rake leaves. Wake each morning and thank God for my blessings. Be thankful. Go out to eat. Listen to music. Dance. Scrub the floor. Sweep. Hear the birds. See the snow. Celebrate the holidays. My family would all come over to the holidays for her. It was important. She wanted to learn new things. Become old, which is an accomplishment. Have friends. Love my family. Be a peacemaker. Watch TV. Laugh. Smile. Trust God. Rejoice in each new day. Eat. Drink. Live by God's word. See and hear the rain. Sees nature's beauty. Roll Mom's hair. Be still and calm and know God. Turn to God for help with life. Go shopping. Keep the commandments. Have another chance with life. Without worry, stress management, and turn more to God for help. Sing. Brush Nick. Dog. Be there when Cara falls out of bed.
I need a little help at this point.
So, be there for her.
Brush my teeth.
Yeah.
Be thankful for my home. Love each new day. Pick up Cara's toys. Be an inspiration to others. Through Jesus, pray for others. Wash windows. Dust. Comb Cara's hair. Give her a bath. Well, say our prayers. Appreciate my family. Go to PTA. Do homework. Get more gray hair and wrinkles. Try to find good in other people and not judge people. Pluck my eyebrows. take a bath.
I just think that's important. I think that shows a lot about her, and I just thought it was important.
She was a
'Cause,
simple and beautiful person.
Yeah, and yeah, those are just all things I think from her list, there's a lot to learn. You know, and I don't remember. I only read that a couple times, so when I found it, I leave it here and read it when I come back. Cause,
I can't put into words how privileged I am that she taught me to play marbles. When we went over to the families in the 1950s for those holiday get-togethers, and that I've been able to be here today to listen to her legacy. We're very blessed. Many of us, I don't just mean me, many of us, because of your mother.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's one thing I just, you know,
Thank you.
thank you for doing this.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. ALS it's a degenerative disease. Your muscles stop working piece by piece, and over the course of some years or many years, you can't do anything. And that, thanks for mentioning this one as like an introductory one, because, you know, I'm glad to remember someone, and it'll help me, you know. It's good to remember it, and I can live each with a little more memory and refresher on important things. And to be honest, when you mentioned this to me and talking with you and hearing some of the things we're talking about, this is, I think, going to be a great thing for people to watch and just start to explore with themselves, because there's ways to seek what I can learn from just any day-to-day encounter with someone. So yeah, I hope that people can, you know, hear some things from my mom, hear some things about how much everyone around me has helped me to get to where I am, and then, you know, start to see in their lives whoever they're talking with or experiencing themselves, and as you touch more topics and different ones, that it can just be something that, you know, is brought to the conversation, and that can, you know, make things better, make it better for everyone,
Confident.
those with and with. So.
I hope you feel as blessed as I do for Cara sharing her mother's life with us and giving us an inside look at ALS. We are going to have a sequel to this. We will be visited by a veteran who has ALS and his family, and the challenges that they are currently going through, thanks to the local chapter of the Kentucky ALS organization, agency. So we look forward to that in the near future, and we hope that all of you will view that episode and others when they air. Many thanks to everyone, especially you, Cara, for your courage and honesty today. Thank you.